Hello students, our topic today is the division of labor. It should be known that in modern times, division of labor is more applicable in an industrial economy than in agricultural economy. Note that this does not mean that division of labor applies only in an industry. But before we go into the nitty-gritty of the topic, let's look at the origin of division of labor. Adam Smith, who propounded the theory of division of labor in 1776, in his book titled The Wealth of the Nation, visited a place where pins were made and found out that pin making involves 18 different processes at that time. He also found out that one man was coordinating all the processes of pin making all alone. As a result of this rigorous and slow process involved in the process of making pins, that man was producing just 20 pins a day. Adam Smith came to a conclusion that if these 18 pin making processes were handled by different individuals instead of one man, more pins will be produced. This idea of division of labor thought out by Adam Smith was then applied, and as a result, 48,000 pins were produced per day. It will interest you to know that this is how the application of modern division of labor came into existence in our present day. Now, in our last lesson, I defined production as the transformation or the changing of raw materials into finished goods. Today, we are going to focus on division of labor. So, what is division of labor? Now, division of labor may be defined as a system of breaking down production processes into different stages so that each stage is undertaken or handled by an individual. This division of production processes will depend on the type, size of the industry, and the nature of goods produced. For example, in a textile industry, division of labor can involve the spinning, then to weaving, then production processes can progress into the dyeing of the material, the warping, the beaming, drafting, and finally the denting of the cotton. Beside the textile industries, we can also have the division of labor in a bakery where bread is produced. In a bakery, the division of labor can involve the mixing of flour, the grinding of flour, the molding and cutting stage, that is cutting the dough into various sizes, then the loading into the oven and removal from the oven, then the production process can also move up to the removal from the pan, and finally the selling of the bread. It will interest you to know that division of labor can even be applied in our home, where the father, mother, sons, and daughters play different but complementary roles. Advantages or merits of division of labor. Division of labor is time and energy saving. It increases production of goods, as mentioned earlier. It reduces fatigue. Division of labor can also increase the skill of the workers. It can lead to specialization and creation of employment opportunities. Now, the disadvantage of division of labor may include that it makes work monotonous. It brings about decline in craftsmanship. The use of machine reduces employment opportunity under division of labor. And finally, it brings about immobility of labor. Moving forward, what is economic of scale or scale of production? By economies of scale, I mean the growth of a firm or an industry resulting from expansion of the volume of productive capacity, which leads to increase in output and decrease in its cost of production per unit of output. There are two types of economies of scale. They include the internal economies and the internal diseconomies. The internal economies is also known as the economies of large-scale production, are the advantages a firm derives from the expansion of its scale of production as a result of its own single efforts. While the external economies are the benefits a firm derives from increase in its output and decrease in its cost due to help the firm receive from other firms, especially in the use of their products. Now, the main types of external economies are as follows. 1. Economies of concentration. 2. Economies of information. And 3. Economies of disintegration. While internal economies may be of the following types: technical economies, labor economies, financial economies, economies of research, and economies of welfare. Others include economies of continuation, marketing economies, managerial economies, and risk-bearing economics. Now, let's review. What is economies of scale? I define economies of scale as the growth of a firm or an industry resulting from expansion of the volume of productive capacity, which leads to increase in output and decrease in its cost of production per unit of output. I am going to illustrate this. For example, let's examine the function of fixed costs in production. Now, let's assume Mr. John starts a business making a small wooden airplanes and selling them at $20 each. Now, for the sake of simplicity, we will also assume that Mr. John does everything himself. That is, he is the sole laborer employed in the business. Let's also assume that his only fixed cost is the $1,000 he paid monthly as his rent, and that his variable costs are the various parts he uses for the production of his airplane, which amounts to $5 per plane. So, looking at these two illustrations, in Mr. John's first month, he only sold just 10 airplanes. Now, to get his total revenue, we see the 10 airplanes sold by Mr. John multiplied by $20. So his total revenue for that month will be $200. Remember that Mr. John has to pay rent of $1,000. His variable cost of producing those 10 airplanes sold will be $50. So his total cost will be $200 minus $1,050. So Mr. John will be making a loss of $850. This is because his per plane cost is a whopping sum of $105. Now, in the second month, Mr. John was able to sell 500 airplanes at $20 each. His total cost for his total revenue will now be 500 multiplied by 20, which is $10,000. He also paid rent of $1,000, and his variable cost of producing the 500 airplanes he sell will amount to $2,500. So his total cost will be $10,000 minus $3,500 that is spent. So Mr. John will be making profit of $6,500 because his per plane cost is just $1. This means that his per plane cost is just about $1, explaining the external economies of scale. The fact that his rent didn't go up along with the sales volume. Mr. John will continue to make profit each month. I will want to sign off here. I hope the illustration on internal and external economies of scale is well understood. Ensure you attempt all your quizzes and do your assignment. I'll see you in the next class. Thank you.